Hello everybody, nice to meet you. Today I will tell you about recommendation systems and how they can be used in Sitecore context. Not a lot about order cloud, as Alexei mentioned, but a little bit details about order cloud I will tell you also. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sergey Baranov. I'm Sitecore developer at Brimit, and I'm also a Sitecore technology MVP for the last 3 years. And I'm a machine learning engineer, so I hope that I'm the right person to tell about recommendations, especially in Sitecore context. You can see my agenda. First, we will have a fast overview of recommendations, just to know why they're important for business. And then I will introduce you to different types of recommendations and explain how they work. In the second part of my presentation, we will discuss some design strategies to understand where and what types of recommendations you should place on your website. And at the end, I will show you our demo solution and explain how it works. And of course, I will be glad to answer your questions. And let's start. Recommendation systems are systems that make some suggestions based on different data. It can be user history, customer profiles, and even items metadata. In short, recommendation systems helps a user find more items of what they like or any relevant alternatives. The most common examples where you have seen recommendation systems in action would be, for example, Amazon, Netflix, or even social networks like Facebook or Instagram with their advertising campaigns. And I mean that it doesn't matter what kind of items do you have on your website. It can be products, books, movies, applications, for example. But behind the scene, all recommendation systems are just a set of algorithms which give you recommendations based on different factors and use different types of available data. And before we start deep diving into recommendation systems, let me answer the question why recommendation systems are so important, and especially for e-commerce. And let's start with global statistics. In fact, visits where the shoppers clicked recommendation comprise just 7% of all visits, but they highly increase orders and revenue rates up to 24 and 26%. Recommendations are also directly linked to longer shopping visits. Shoppers that click recommendations spend on average about 13 minutes per visit. Also, shoppers that click the recommendation were nearly twice as likely to come back to the website if compared with shoppers who didn't. Shoppers that clicked the recommendations viewed about 5 times more unique products per visit. And it's very good if you have a lot of products. Shoppers who clicked recommendations were 4.5 times more likely to create a shopping cart and more likely to complete a purchase. And in fact, 24% of products bought by the customers that clicked recommendations are the same products that they clicked via recommendations. And more proof, more than half of orders from buyers that ever clicked recommendations include one of these recommended items. And when it comes to recommendations themselves, some retailers choose to let artificial intelligence do all the work. Other retailers, for example, integrate manual recommendations. But in general, the more products you have, the more it makes sense to rely on machine learning for the heavy lifting. So before we begin to consider these real smart recommendation types, let me make a quick overview of some recommendation types that don't have any machine learning background, but are also very important and commonly used. And the first group of recommendations I named non-personalized recommendations. And because in this type of recommendations, all website visitors see the same list of items. So these types of recommendations are static. And the most popular non-personalized recommendation is bestsellers. And bestsellers are just products that have sold the most, sometimes with favoring more recent sales, just to ensure that recommendations remain relevant over time. For bestsellers implementation, you only need some simple statistical calculations over your checkout history and don't require any special machine learning background. But in a real world, bestsellers recommendations have a very high ROI. There is the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. It states that for many events, 80% of effects come from 20% of causes. For product recommendations in e-commerce, according to this principle, it sounds like 80% of your sales will come from 20% of your products. Of course, the ratio will never exactly be 80-20, but the correlation will be around that region. And that's why bestsellers is a very good recommendation type, especially if you don't have any machine learning background. And the second non-personalized recommendation is trending products. It's very similar to bestsellers with only one difference, that trending recommendations is a combination of high recent sales and high recent product views. So for implementation of this type of recommendation, you also need to take into account product page views. And the next type of non-personalized recommendation is top-rated items. If you have on your website any explicit feedback from your customers, for example, rating system or likes, dislikes, so you can easily calculate top-rated products and recommend them. And just to sum up, the non-personalized recommendation types: bestsellers, trending, top-rated, mostly view, and any other types of recommendations that are static. And the next group is recommendation that are based only on context of current user. And most commonly used recommendation types of this group are abandoned items and recently viewed items. Abandoned products, I hope you know what it means. For example, if customer add some products to cart but didn't complete checkout and his session was ended, it's a good idea to remind him about these products in future. And the second recently viewed products is just a browsing history of current website visitor, but the widget is very useful, especially in case when you have many other recommendation widgets on your website, because your customer can browse products by clicking on your recommendations, and he may not know how to find a specific product by using your website menus or your main navigations. User context recommendations are very easy to implement if you have integrations with Sitecore customer data platform, or for example with Sitecore Send if you want to use some recommendations in your mailouts, for example like to remind user about abandoned products. This system tracks and stores all user activity on the website. If you have an order cloud for your website solution, you can find already implemented integrations for Sitecore CDP and for Sitecore Send. All that you need, just install it and provide your client keys. Or another way, you can see source code and copy paste it. And the last group of personalization of recommendations is personalized recommendations. It is the most interesting group and the most complicated in implementation because almost all types of personalized recommendations have a machine learning background or some complex statistical calculations. And the main idea, the main goal of all personalized recommendation algorithms is to extract information from data about what kind of relationships might exist between users and products. One of the most common uses of this data is to take the knowledge about what products a user already likes. That can come from ratings, for example, that a user given to products, or from user orders or product page views, etc. And by using this information, recommendation algorithm tries to answer the question, what other products we can recommend to that user? And there are multiple ways of answering this question. One option is to find products which have similar attributes to the product that the user already likes. For example, if a person likes sci-fi books, then we can recommend him other sci-fi books. The other options is to find products which are liked by similar users. It's something like asking a friend for recommendation, someone who you trust because they have similar interests as you. And the last option is to recommend complementary products. For instance, if somebody is buying a smartphone, we can recommend him headphones. Or as an image, we can recommend Coca-Cola to hamburger. As the first category, where we are finding products based on similarity in attributes, is called content-based filtering. Content here is another name of attributes of the products. The second category is known as collaborative filtering. Users are finding products that they like with the help of other users or the collaboration of other users. That's why it's called collaborative filtering. And the final category of recommendation algorithms is known as association rules learning, because we are finding rules that help us to associate one type of product with another. Okay, let's start with content-based filtering. So let's say there is a user who likes books of specific author or genres. Based on this information, content-based filtering algorithm can easily find books that have the same or similar attributes. So similarity in content-based filtering measured against item attributes. And the next category is collaborative filtering. For this recommendation type, we need to have a history of all other users. And there are two main types of collaborative filtering recommendations, user-based and item-based. In user-based collaborative filtering, we find top users that have a common interests with our user. And then we look into products of these similar users and find most frequently items and suggest them to our user. In item-based collaborative filtering, we know, for example, that our current user frequently buy item A. Then we look into another product. Sorry. Then we find top users that also frequently buy at item A. And then we look into another products which these similar users buy frequently, calculate more frequently items, and suggest it to our current user. These two types of collaborative filtering is similar, but works in some different ways. And the similarity in collaborative filtering is measured indirectly through the similarity of users, not items. And the last type of recommendations is association rules learning. In these recommendations, we try to find complementary products, not substitutable like in content-based or collaborative filtering, but complementary. Association rules learning, also known as market basket analysis. This category of recommendation algorithms try to answer the questions what products about together in a single transaction frequently, and what products about by user in a short period of time frequently also. Data representation in association rules learning is mainly in the form of conditional probabilities. We are trying to understand how the probability of purchasing product B is affected due to the purchase of product A. For association rules learning, we need to have our full transaction history. Algorithm try to find relationships that show that, for example, buying a product A increases the likelihood of the person buying a product B. And these relationships are called association rules. On this image, for example, you see only association rules for 2 items. But in real solution, we use up to 5 items in one rule. And this type of recommendations is commonly used on checkout or shopping cart pages, where the user already have, for example, 3 items in basket, and algorithm tries to find recommended items that are frequently bought together with these 3 items. And the last one, but usually most used of the commercial recommendations, is a hybrid recommendations. Hybrid recommendation systems are based on the combination of all types of personalized recommendations. And hybrid approach can be implemented by different types of predictions that are executed separately, and then combining results of each type of recommendations in one list and order this list by scoring. The hybrid recommendation system will overcome the limitations of every single recommendation type approach, and it's highly improve the prediction performance. Okay, let's move to the second part of my presentations. It's design strategies. I will show you shortly where and what types of recommendations should be placed on your website. We will consider the following locations: all page, home page, product details, product category, and checkout or cart details page. The biggest mistake of many websites is showing the same content on many pages. It's very annoying for your customers, and you should avoid this. A good example of recommendations that can be used on all pages of your website is recently viewed items, because it's updated in real time, and also it's useful way for navigation through your customer browsing history. The home page is almost always the first touch point for your shoppers. The home page is the key to capturing attention and should have relevant recommendations to the different shopper types, both identified users and anonymous. For non-users, you should show personalized recommendations hybrid is the best options. If you don't have hybrid recommendations, you can use any types of personalized recommendations that you have. For anonymous user, of course, you cannot use personalized recommendations because you don't know something about your anonymous visitor. And the good idea for anonymous is to show him bestsellers, trending, and top-rated products, etc. And because of homepage is almost always the first page that user open, it's a good place to remind him about abandoned products. If he has, for example. If you use, for example, Sitecore customer data platform implementation, you can use abandoned widgets even for anonymous users, because in Sitecore CDP session, browser session stores for 2 years. Okay, the next page is product details page. Visitors who land on the product page are still searching for something to buy. And while they browse, offer relevant alternative and complementary products can pique their interest. It's also known as upselling and cross-selling. So you can, for example, recommend similar products by using content-based filtering. And you can also recommend complementary products by using association rules learning. The next type is category page. Category pages are one of the most important drivers of discovery in an online store. Because this page will store all of the relevant products and expose them on a dedicated page, giving the shoppers the opportunity to narrow down to a particular subcategory to find exactly what they're looking for. And so you can show personalized recommendations where products are filtered by current category. Idea is the same as you have for your home items. So just recommend something personalized, but only with filter by this category. If you have anonymous users, you can show non-personalized recommendations also with filter by category. For example, most popular products in this category. And the last one is checkout page or shopping cart page. And this page is prime time for upselling. It's the perfect moment to offer complementary items to complete a customer's purchase. And association rules learning is the best recommendations choice for checkout page. And fun fact, up to 25% of customers who click on these recommendations actually ordered these items. Okay, let me introduce our demo solution. So we have a retail e-commerce website. We have an order cloud as a product catalog and storage for our customers and their orders. In Sitecore, we configure our page, what product catalogs to use, and what types of recommendations to render or on different pages. For example, in our demo, we have multiple websites. We have 4 different websites with different product catalogs, but only one order cloud account. Okay, we also have our own implemented machine learning part that is responsible for our recommendations. It's a .NET Core based application that works like a web API service. But before we can use recommendations, we need to train our recommendation models. To do this, first of all, we have to do a one-time initial downloading of all products and orders. from order cloud and use it to train our model. Then when, for example, user make a checkout, we can trigger even to machine learning to update information about this particular order. This is how our machine learning part works, and when we have already pre-trained machine learning models, we can easily use it by asking for recommendations from our website. And let me show how it works. Sorry. So it's how look our machine learning part. It's just a API that we implemented. First, we need to sync all our users' history with their orders from Order Cloud. All that we need just to know catalog ID, because as I said before, we have multiple websites and each website has its own catalog ID. After syncing all our orders, we need to train our machine learning models. We need just to pass only one catalog ID the same. And after that, we can ask our machine learning endpoints about different types of recommendations. This is our machine learning backend. So first we need to sync our products and orders from Order Cloud. We're using Order Cloud Web API. So we just extract all our products, save them, train our models, save them, extract all orders, save model, and then we go to our recommendation controller. After extracting all the data, we need to train our models that we do. And after doing this, we can trigger any type of recommendations and receive a feedback. So our solutions with Sitecore looks like we have 4 different websites. Each website has its own catalog ID for Order Cloud. Inside configuration, yes. And also we have recommendation widgets. When what we can place on page that we need, and some widget also have different types. For example, for personalized recommendation, we can choose hybrid recommendation, item-based recommendation, user-based, or model-based. It's a matrix utilization. Or for example, for associated learning rules, we can choose algorithms that we want to use. A priori is the most famous algorithm, but it's very slow. FP grows, for example, much times faster. And the third, it's a Markov model. It also takes into account a sequence of items that you add to your cart. And as you can see, we just can put any type of widget on the page that we want. Okay, let me show how it works. And this is one of our demo websites. First of all, as you can see, our website communicates with Order Cloud to extract products that we want to order. And the second is the call of our recommendation widgets. And for example, it's a frequently bought together widget where we pass catalog ID, type of algorithm that we want to use, and product ID, what we are interested in. In a result, we have a list of items with confidence level that you can, for example, filter by. And how it looks. For example, right now we are on page of nasal spray. This is items from my old carts that I didn't complete checkout. Best sellers from this category. Recently viewed items. Similar products with with the confidence level of similarity. Frequently bought together with this one. And let me show, for example, how the complementary products work. We add to cart this spray. Navigate to checkout. And you will see that it suggests me some complementary products to complete my cart. Okay, come back to my presentation. Okay, that's all. So stay updated. I hope to meet you at SubCon in Budapest in the end of this month. I will be a speaker with similar topic and show you more detailed integrations of recommendation systems with Sitecore Customer Data Platform and Order Cloud. Yes, thank you for your attention. If this topic is interesting for you, or you have some questions about details or implementation, just find me in Sitecore Slack, and I would be glad to help you.